Most men waste years stuck, frustrated in the gym, not seeing any progress and spinning their wheels. They train hard, but they don't train smart, and they never see the results they actually want. So we're gonna fix that with a simple 4-day training split that's guaranteed to build results if you follow the plan. And if you're new here, I'm Jack. I've been a coach for 6 years and I've helped guys lose up to 80 pounds, train for brutal extreme Ironmans, and also pack on 10 kilos of muscle mass. So it's good to say that I've got some experience helping guys get in the best shape of their life and feel confident with their kit off and perform at their very best. And today we're going to talk about how to build out a 4-day training program that's going to burn body fat, build muscle mass, and get you fitter than ever. So we can cut through those training plateaus and start to see the results you really want. By the end of this video, you should have a clear plan on how to build out a 4-day training program. And if you still want more guidance, I've dropped a full 4-day split below. You'll understand how to program for full body training sessions, when to add intensifiers, and why conditioning matters if you really want to see results. So what is a full body training split? What does that look like? So why a full body split works so well? Ultimately, you're training your muscle groups more often than you would if you were following a push-pull legs program or a typical bro split that most guys have picked up from old school bodybuilders and continue to use to this day and haven't really deviated away from it. You can add more volume throughout the training block. You can manage acute fatigue a little bit better, so you're pushing closer to failure throughout those sessions and then recovering well enough to then train those muscle groups again. And then there's less chance of skipping muscle groups, less chance of skipping legs and never really seeing any progress in those areas because you're mixing up upper body and lower body exercises together. Well, this also allows us to build movement patterns faster because you're training exercises that are similar more often. Therefore, you're going from an intermediate to an advanced lifter much faster than if you're doing the typical bro split. And this frequency helps to avoid that undertraining element that can come from training muscle groups once per week. And what essentially means is no more smashing chest for once a week and then ending up skipping legs, which is half your body. And the positive of this is we can use research for how important training frequency can be. Schoenfeld et al. In 2016, Gentile et al. In 2015, and Wembron et al. In 2017 all back up that the training frequency is an important factor in growing and building more muscle mass. It also means there's less jump volume so that you can be clear and clinical within your training program. So what can the structure look like? Well, typical structures can follow these options. So we've got a full body split where you just be doing resistance-based sessions and potentially adding some cardio at the end of these workouts. You could then do a push-pull, which you then repeat. So you can alternate them with different exercise variations, but still giving you the ability to train through that full body range. One of my personal favorites is a 3 times full body and 1 times conditioning session. So you'd again equate the volume throughout those 3 sessions and then add in the conditioning session at the end. Or another personal favorite, 2 full body sessions and 2 conditioning sessions, whether those are running outside, swimming, or whatever you enjoy from a sports perspective. Now each session should look relatively simple. You're going to have a 5-minute warm-up where you're looking to improve and open up joint ranges, as well as getting the body primed for exercise, into 40 to 55 minutes of your main session, and potentially a cool down if you wish to. For me, my cool down is walking back from the gym. You may not have that luxury, so adding an extra 5 minutes of movement at the end of your session could help you just remove some fatigue, remove some waste products, and make you feel better. Now, the main session can be split into 3 portions. Main strength element, where you're focusing on building your neuromuscular strength and trying to get stronger in certain lifts, whether that's the bench press, deadlift, squat, and exercises like this. Into some hypertrophy work if you've got key muscle groups that you want to build and progress, such as your chest, shoulders, and arms, or quads maybe, like myself. And then the final part of the session can be focused on accessories, delts, arms, calves, or where you can add in that conditioning work if you pair it alongside watt bike work, ski erg, and things like these. Personal favorite for me to blow up the arms is a ski erg into bicep curls into push-ups. Depending on what your main goal is, you might want to swap these things around a little bit more and have a higher proportion towards strength and hypertrophy rather than the conditioning work. Or if you're severely overweight, conditioning should probably take the priority and you should focus on going through a hypertrophy range and then finishing with some conditioning work. And what about cardio? Well, we can't neglect cardio because your heart is a muscle. And if we don't train your heart, you're gonna be unfit and there's a higher risk of coronary heart diseases and other factors that are gonna impact your overall health. Doing conditioning work or cardiovascular work will improve your ability to recover in sessions. So reduce your fatigue between sessions and sets. It'll increase the amount of energy you have day to day so you don't feel like you're waking up tired and sluggish all the time, because this isn't just about burning calories, it's about improving your performance. On top of that, it helps with insulin sensitivity. And if you haven't done so already, I'd highly highly recommend going and watch this nutrition video, which is going to help you work out whether or not you're in a calorie deficit so that you can keep burning body fat whilst you're following this training program. And one thing you might not realize is that if you're short on time and you want to condense those full body sessions down, you could make them 45 minutes or less so that you can then add the additional cardiovascular session into a fifth session so that you feel like you're able to manage the training volume and load throughout the week if you've got a really busy schedule. And one of the reasons that cardiovascular fitness is so important, and we can use science again to back this up, is that Fife et al. In 2014 and Wilson et al. In 2012 all show that cardiovascular fitness will help to improve your longevity, your health, and your general performance within the gym. Now, this is one element that most men completely forget. They just don't track their workouts. Now, this is a key component to make sure that you're progressing throughout your workouts and your training block, because what gets measured gets managed. And if you're noticing that some exercises aren't performing the way that they should be, you're not seeing them increase week to week, month to month with reps and sets, how do you know that you're progressing? How do you know that you're performing? And how do you know that you're going to build muscle mass and drop that body fat at the same time? And you can't play the game of trying to beat previous week's numbers if you don't know what you even did last week. And so you should be tracking how much weight you lift, the number of reps you complete for the rep ranges. Your rest times should be equated, whether that's within a training app that you're using given by your coach or one that you've given to those exercises yourself. You should be tracking your tempo and how fast you're going through those reps. You might want to track your reps in reserve or your RPE, so rate of perceived exertion, how intense it was out of 10. But you should definitely be tracking the machine setting. If you're on a prone hamstring curl, you want to make note of the pin height, the elbow height you have it, the ankle height that you have it, so that you're matching the machine up to your body so you can make the most of this exercise. And this is where using simple apps like Strong or your Notes app or even a spreadsheet to track these workouts will allow you to progress and perform as best you can. One of the best ways that you can do this is by logging all of your data whilst you're resting in between exercises. Because as James Clear says in his book Atomic Habits, when you try to pair two habits together, you're far more likely to complete them. And so how can we then stimulate these workouts even more? How do we know that if we're in 6 to 8 weeks time, things haven't really progressed to the extent that you want to, what can we do? Well, this is where we add intensifiers into those workouts and some really good opportunities for you to push yourself harder, train yourself to push closer to that part of failure, because we obviously want to be hitting those effective reps. And effective reps is where you're starting to stimulate that muscle protein synthesis, you're starting to push and spike your contractions within those muscles to grow. And some of my personal favorites are drop sets, where you complete your normal set and then the last set you take to failure, where you then drop the weight by 20% and then take the set to failure again. What this does is just give you an opportunity to rest for 5 to 10 seconds and allows you to then achieve a few more reps because the load is lighter than what you can normally do. Rest pause sets are another really good option. This is where you take a set through its normal rep ranges, and then the second set, you then take it to failure. Rest for 20 seconds to just accumulate some more energy, take it to failure again, rest for 10 seconds to accumulate a little bit more energy and recover slightly, and then take to failure one more time. This allows you to condense a lot of repetitions into a short amount of time, instead of adding in another set, which would then take a few more minutes and therefore can extend the length of those sessions when you might not have the time. And mechanical drop sets are perfect if you're training from home or you're really short on time. It's where you take an exercise from positions where it's challenging through to positions where it's easier. A really good option for this is the incline press, where you take it from 6 to 8 reps, where it's pretty challenging exercises, into a flat press where you can increase the amount of reps for the same amount of weight, and then into an AMRAP with push-ups. Because you're using your body weight, you're typically going to be able to complete maybe 6 to 15 reps, depending on your strength level and how hard you've pushed yourself within the other two exercises. But this is a really nice mechanical drop set if you're training from home and you've got only a bench and some dumbbells. And partial reps are a really good way for us to utilize biomechanics to be really efficient with our training sessions. It's where you can pair an exercise that takes it through the full range of motion with an exercise that challenges it at a point where the exercise is strongest. And a good example is using a cable lateral raise into a heavy dumbbell partial raise, where we're challenging the lateral deltoid in a position where it's strongest using those heavy partial reps. And when used properly, these increase the density within your sessions, meaning we can condense the amount of work that we're doing in the same amount of time. But most men don't even know they exist, and if they do, they just don't know when they should be using them. Typically, we want to be using them at probably about the 6-week mark. We're starting to get used to the exercises we're already doing, and therefore we can just increase the amount of intensity within those sessions, start to perform even more and push ourselves closer to failure. And then not just for for advanced lifters. Anybody can use them once they're done properly. Angeleri et al. In 2017 and Israel in 2020 shows that these are really great to use alongside compound lifts or on isolation movements. Part of the challenge of trying to build muscle mass and drop body fat at the same time for men is that they're just not training hard enough. Learning to deal with intensity is a skill. You can develop it like strength over time, but stability, tempo, and technical failure before you completely collapse throughout the exercise is something you have to build over time as you become more advanced as a lifter, because that's ultimately how you grow and build resilience within the session. You're not going to build muscle mass going through a set of reps where it looks like it's a walk in the park. Effective reps, as we mentioned earlier, are those ones that the last 4 to 5 reps that you really have to push yourself hard on. You have to stay stuck in those reps and watch the speed of those repetitions just slow down even more, sometimes holding positions for 4 to 5 seconds as you're grinding through those reps. And an easy way to test this is using a monthly set of as many reps as possible where you try to push yourself closer to failure every single month. And this can help you learn to stay stable and to be safe within those exercises. And when you follow this sort of program, if you're following it for 12 to 16 weeks, which is probably a length that anybody should follow a training split for, so that you can learn the exercises and add those intensifiers to make it more challenging throughout the process, you're naturally going to add some deloads in just with your own personal life, whether that's holidays, work trips, being ill, managing your kids. There's always going to be something that's going to give you the opportunity to take a deload. But if you're somebody that lives under a rock and you feel like you train all the time and it's something that's really important to you, you probably want to take a deload between 6 to 8 weeks in, so that you've got an opportunity to let the soft tissue recover a little bit, give your central nervous system time to adapt and recover, and manage your stress and pull that down a little bit before you go into the next block of work. And when do you recognize moments to take deloads? Well, for me personally, it's when performance drop, sleep tanks, stress gets higher, you're a bit more grouchy, feel hungry. But if you're in a deficit, you're going to feel hungry anyway. And it's important to recognize that a deload is not a setback, it's a position to just stabilize where you are so that you can then kick on again. So here's what you need to do next. And because I'm so nice, we're going to run you through what an example workout can look like. And because I'm so nice, I'm going to run you through what an example program can look like for a 4-day training split. So here's what you need to do next. We need to build out a 4-day training split that works for you, that you can follow for 6 to 8 weeks before you then start adding intensifiers. You need to track every single workout you do and add some conditioning throughout the week, whether that's at the end of your training sessions or cumulatively into a 5th session at the end of the week. Sprinkle in intensifiers when you get closer towards the end of the training block so that you're still challenging yourself through those reps and exercises. Make sure you just check your recovery and deload by tracking your lifts. If you do all that, you're gonna feel leaner, fitter, and stronger, and more in control of your training than ever before. And if you want a done-for-you version of a 4-day training split, all you need to do is head to the link below this video and grab it yourself. And if you like this video so much and you're struggling to manage your calories, no matter what you do with your calorie deficit, it's probably worth you going and watching this video, which is going to tell you exactly where you're going wrong with your calorie deficit to help you burn more body fat, get rid of the belly, and help you get fitter. Be a legend, like, subscribe, and drop me a comment on what you found useful in this video and whether you'd like to see more stuff just like this.